And so, like we said, these players had assigned seating going into this tournament. All of the players in the top 8 had a special VIP package, which meant that they had the first 2 rounds as wins, which meant they had an easier start to the day. They got to dodge a lot of the rogue decks. And additionally, they've been sitting beside each other or close enough, so they know what each other are playing. There's no secrets here in top 32. It is going to be purely a match of skill and how the cards are drawn. We have the handshake, show of sportsmanship, leading with the Buffalo.
Absolutely. And actually, Joshua is not looking that great. The Buffalo is his main hope here. And okay, so quick plays from both of these guys. They have played plenty of Yu-Gi-Oh, so they know what's going on. Joshua drops the Ash Blossom, knowing that in this particular deck, Salamangreat, you can just get it back with Sunlight Wolf, so it makes sense that...
Yeah. And locking that Phantasme into Jake's hand is quite good because it means that he needs to have one of his one-card extenders into his Nightmare Mermaid. He doesn't get the free value from
these draws are
Phantasme.
super important, and he does pick up the Signet Mining.
That's what you want to see. Signet Mining and a Foxy. Foxy being quite decent in this matchup because Orcust won't have Babel and other cards active on the field. It's really turning into quite a good hand for Joshua here.
I think it is a fantastic hand at the moment. He will be able to end on Abyss Dweller, and he does know his opponent deck because, as Oliver said, both of these guys came for the playoff. That meant that they had 2-round buys and VIP package. So they have been sitting very close to each other for 11 rounds of Swiss.
And I mean, they're both just such high-profile players. You're going to be keeping an eye on the other guy anyway.
Yeah.
Like, they knew that this was a likely match at some point. Joshua's going to have an insanely good opening here. He's going to have a Infinite Impermanence, which matches really well into the Orcust. It dodges the Called by the Grave. There's no Phantasme down to be able to protect from the targeting effect.
And yeah, he gets the foul because he has the setup with the Falco Engrave, and he will also be able to get back the Ash Blossom. So this is a huge opening. And yeah, nothing really to say about this.
I mean, this is a Strength of Flame Buffalo, right? Going into this weekend, people were pretty 50-50 on the card, but it has been overperforming time and time again.
I think the card is just so good because, as you could see with Joshua opening, he did not have a Gazelle in his hand, but when you activate Buffalo and resolve it, you can draw into Gazelle, Circle, or Signet Mining, which means that you have such a good chance of actually playing the game. And on top of that, you get even an extra card. It can be an Anthrop, a Sanctum, whatever. So
exactly. And not only does Joshua have a very strong turn 1 board here, but he also has so much follow-up play, and that's the strength of the Salamangreat deck. He's able to play a lot from his graveyard, and he has everything he wants in there right now. Jake picks up the Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring for turn. Not what he is looking for here. He needs more protection to enable his Orcust plays. He is not playing Eagle Booster, which would have been the ideal card here. And Ash Blossom comes down on Candina.
Yes, he's kind of forced to do this because otherwise he was going to add the light stage. So the impermanence would have been useless. And now I wouldn't be surprised to actually see the impermanence being chained. He does, and that means that there are no more interruptions here from Joshua, but he also has the Phantasme on top of it, so it was such an incredible opening.
Yeah, and here Joshua has just shut down Jake's turn 1. The Ash Blossom has been banished, and this means that Jake's Ash Blossom in hand is going to not be able to do anything during Joshua's next turn.
Yes.
Very low defenses here. A frustrating start for the Orcust player because this is not how you want your top 32 game 1 to go.
Absolutely, but there is not much you can do. We said that Orcust was very popular, but not one of the main favorites, I would say, walking into this event. Lancia is so popular, Dweller is as well, and game 1 you don't really have much to do under Abyss Dweller, so...
For sure, and all of the Salamangreat players I've seen here this weekend have been going into Abyss Dweller as early as possible in the games. Sunlight Wolf just doing so much work in these Salamangreat decks. Being able to add back combo pieces, being able to add back interaction. Obviously, Ash Blossom has been banished, so it will not be returning. Fog Blade will come down on the Sunlight Wolf. But that's not too big of a deal because Joshua is going to be able to... he's extending his plays.
Especially because Buffalo is a level 3, so it can be used to actually summon the Stalio. And that's a pretty big deal. So we still have a game on our hands, but Joshua's position is surely better. So
yeah, I think Joshua is kind of trying to figure it out. Do I have game here? Am I able to find the damage? Yeah. Since the Salamangreat decks have been reducing the use of Fusion of Fire, with the exception of the last round that we saw, it's much more difficult for the deck to find that surprise burst damage.
I definitely agree, and also here the problem is that Joshua has to play around the Phantasme that he knows about. He negated it turn 1 with the Ash Blossom, so he knows that that's in Jake. And it is pretty complicated, to be honest, to actually OTK through it. So
for sure. What he is trying to achieve here, he will be able to send one of his Speller Trap cards from the deck to the graveyard.
Yeah, something interesting to mention about Joshua's deck, which I think is the only thing that's out of the ordinary in his deck list, is 3 copies of Salamangreat Rage, which we usually see as a 1 or 2 off, but he decided to go with the full set.
I mean, with the exception of playing against Thunder Dragon, it's quite a strong card in this format. It's very good in the Salamangreat mirror matches, as well as when you are playing against cards like Sky Striker, and even in this Orcust matchup, we can see it being relevant. It will be able to clear the Phantasme. The danger of Phantasme is it could let Jake get his Orcust from hand into graveyard to try and start progressing.
Absolutely, but it is not like Joshua can play safely around it. He will be able to get back the Rage and get things going on, but the Ash Blossom is actually not that bad from Jake. He doesn't pick up amazing cards, but he might still get there later on. So
I mean, Engage just gives him a little bit of extra protection in case his board is cleared here. It means that he'll have a follow-up to the Salamangreat Rage, and that is always not bad. But that's not all, says Joshua, as he goes to summon his Salamangreat Falco, and he is going back into his extra deck. He is going to keep climbing higher with his links.
Yeah, he's also playing Borderlord Dragon, which is something that, again, we have not seen in all of the deck lists. It is working out for him, I guess. It makes more sense that, since there are many Thunder Dragons around. And
for sure. We saw the issue in the previous day where we had a Salamangreat player. I believe it was Samira was not playing Borreload. He was in fact playing Topologic Bomber Dragon, and it almost cost him a match.
Absolutely, and it works very well with Joshua's side deck. He has triple mind control, so it makes Borreload very easy to be summoned while going second in Game Tune 3.
Yeah, Mind Control is a card that I think is very underrated at the moment.
It is. I think it is one of those versatile cards where you can use it against Sky Striker, you can use it against pretty much everything going second. And it works very well when you have such a end-trap heavy deck as Salamangreat. So I'm not surprised that Joshua decided to side the entire set, actually.
Yeah, and Jake's in an awkward position here. He does not have any combo pieces he can easily use. He would actually prefer to not have this Phantasme on his field so that he could activate his Mobilize Engage.
I think here he might be forced to actually normal summon one of his Entrops just because...
Yeah. He has to normal summon one, then Joshua is likely to use his trap card to clear the board here. He might allow Jake to go into a Nightmare, but the problem would be that the Nightmare would be co-linked with the Sunlight Wolf.
And to be honest, if you do use your normal summon, there aren't many extenders that actually allow you to continue here.
That is skillful play.
Yes, exactly. Joshua goes for a very heads-up play here.
He plays around the Hornet drones, which is massive. A lot of players would just clear both monsters on the field here, but he says, your Effect Veiler has 0 attack. I mean, what's it gonna do?
Yeah.
So Jake is forced to attack into Joshua's monster, taking damage in the process just so he can try to set up a turn or a main phase 2 Nightmare Mermaid.
It is, and this is also due to the fact that, as we were saying, they played around each other for the entire event.
Yeah.
Joshua knew that he was playing Sky Strikers. There was still an option of Jake having the instant fusion, but I think the normal summon of Valor really gave it away, so well played there by Joshua. But now we're gonna see the Phantasmi, and Joshua really needs to pick up an Entrop. So it is still a close game, but I think Joshua is really managing his way through this game one.
Yeah, he is playing it exceedingly well. We see Ash Blossom coming down, stopping the Phantasmi. Jake is going to get to go into his Orcust combo here, as Joshua does not have any interaction, but he can only do so much this turn. We'll have to see what sort of pressure Jake can find here.
Yeah. And the Ash Blossom on the Phantasmi was actually huge here from Jake. He's able to stun Joshua on the response at the moment, so this will allow him to actually go for the entire Orcust combo. So in the end...
Do you think that Jake should have gone through Cerberus linked with the Sunlight Wolf and destroyed the Mirage Stalio while it was co-linked?
But he wouldn't have any other cards, that's the problem.
Well, because he draw the card off the Cerberus.
But if you just get the Balinks, then it doesn't...
Oh, right, yes,
it doesn't get
Balinks
the draw.
is in the graveyard.
That's the problem, yeah. So now he can continue his play. He's being quite safe at the moment. He does know both cards in Joshua N. He's one in the Phantasmi, and the Gazelle was also spinned back by the Falco.
We've seen a lot of Phantasmes just chilling in the hand this game.
Indeed. At the same time, one of the Fog Blades was used earlier on.
Yes.
So he's not going to be able to end on double.
Yeah. It also means that Rusty Shade Brigandine becomes a lot less worse, which he is playing because Time Thief Redoer is a very strong card.
Yeah, even though at the same time you could use the card as an extender.
In fact, he just uses it that way. He is not playing Time Thief Redoer at all in this list.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I'm very surprised by that. I guess it depends on
the cost of playing Instant Fusion.
And Super Poly also, most likely. Yeah. That's the one that really costs you some extra deck spots. And he's not even siding like Shadow Fusion, which is something we've seen being very popular in the Orcust deck lately.
Yeah, and on the topic of super polymerization, Jake only has Starving Venom Fusion Dragon as a target, which means there will be no Violet Chimera shenanigans this game, which is quite surprising because Chimera definitely had been the go-to super polymerization target, but clearly Jake...
Yeah, I mean, he probably doesn't think he needs it. Yeah, he thinks his Salamangreat matchup is good enough that he can afford to actually side super polymerization without the Chimera, and it is paying off for him right now. I'm pretty sure he played a bunch of Salamangreat. There is no way he didn't, since it was the most popular deck at the event, with over 400 players actually using it.
Yes, exactly. And Josh is after picking up an Infinite Impermanence here, which is not too bad.
Yeah. How do you actually use your negations if you're Jake? Do you think he is gonna shotgun the symbol? It probably makes sense here.
I think you generally have to do that. So otherwise, the Sunlight Wolf is offering a lot of value, and the Mirage Stalio is also quite a high priority card as well.
Yeah, so he's gonna use both the Rusty and the Dingirsu.
Yeah,
I don't
the
think
Gazelle
Joshua...
in hand will be able to trigger and summon itself for free, which means if Joshua has access to other monsters, he will be able to further extend.
Yeah, I think he's gonna get rid of both the Wolf and the Stalio.
Yeah.
But that means that Joshua actually still has a few plays. He's definitely not out of this, so let's see how he manages to continue.
Yeah, here comes the Gazelle, activating effect, letting Joshua send any Salamangreat card from his deck to the graveyard. He's looking at a Jack Jaguar here, which seems like a reasonable choice. He'll be able to start returning his Salamangreat Link monsters to his extra deck.
It is pretty much the only thing he is missing, since, as you said, he has not been playing Fusion of Fire, so...
Yeah. He has great graveyard setup here. He also has the Phoxian graveyard, which applies a certain amount of pressure to the Orchestrated Babel.
Yeah, I still like his position, to be fair, and
It's definitely either player's game here.
They are both trying their best. As we were saying, there is no giving back if you're either of the two. Like Jake has been playing the game for years, but he has never gone to the World Championship. No. Joshua is going for the 4th time, I believe, this summer, and he's still missing a win that's not a YCS, so he really wants to win here.
I mean, winning the European Championships must be a nice feeling, right?
It is. It is by far the best tournament you can win outside of the World Championship. And for some versus, I think it is even more difficult too, just because the field is the biggest of the year. So
yeah, and this format has been a really difficult one to traverse. It's so broad that, you know...
It is. I do not mind it, though. I actually kind of miss playing it from time to time. It is. I think it is quite an open one. You can really play whatever you're confident with and top, yeah. And we're getting the actually confirmation of this by seeing such a wide top cut in terms of decks.
Yeah, here comes Hita. Hita is going to target Ash Blossom in the graveyard, presumably, trying to bait out the Fog Blade, but yeah, it's not even the most important thing because Joshua still has his Link summon using a monster of the same name with Salamangreat Sanctuary, gets Kagari. So he still has a lot of plays available to him here.
Yeah, and now the Fog Blade will actually be used. Do you think it was ever better to just use it on Ita there? Or do you actually rather force the Hit Leo?
I mean, the Heat Leo doesn't have any targets, right? Other than the Fog Blade. So you might as well use it on the Hita.
What I mean is just that if the Fog Blade should have been used before on the Ita, or just you let Joshua go for the Hit Leo first. I guess, yes, the line, but now...
I like using it on the Hita as opposed to the Heat Leo. The only extra benefit you get from using it on the Heat Leo instead is that he has to reincarnate Link.
Exactly, that's what I was saying.
But you don't really gain anything there. The Hita basically counts as a Link tree.
Oh, and here I think we're having a little bit of a dispute because Joshua seems like was trying to use Foxy, but I don't think he really gave them much time to Jake to respond because he could have used it, because let's remember Foxy does not target. So if you do not answer to the effect, then the Babel is going to get destroyed, and Jake cannot chain.
The summon and the destruction are all part of the same effect.
From my perspective, it was quite fast, but of course we can't know if Joshua did ask for a response.
For sure.
So I think it is going to be clarified real quick by our judges, and it shouldn't be that hard here.
Yeah, so in the graveyard, I don't see any Orcust cards currently in the graveyard.
He does have the Nightmare, I am 100% sure. So he could go for the Nightmare. Just, I mean, it is not going to make a huge deal, but you really want to set up the face down crescendo. Joshua can obviously just pin it back, but you might as well just use it. So Galatea is
getting the Galatea effect is very relevant.
Anyway, I don't think it will affect the the play that Joshua is gonna make afterwards. So where do you think he is gonna go from here?
I mean, he has a lot of materials here. He can go into something like a Boral Sword if he feels like it, or a Boral Ode to start taking cards from Jake's board if he wants. Realistically, he only has one Abyss Dweller, which is awkward, because otherwise that would be a nice card to try and climb into.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of players actually catching up on the double Abyss Dweller, but I gotta say I'm not that surprised since Orcust was dropping out in popularity. Joshua decided to play the Baguska instead, and it does have some utility in the mirror match, for example, or...
Can Joshua find sufficient damage to end the game this turn here?
I mean, here is where like Fusion of Fire would be so amazing.
Exactly, and in these slower matchups, Fusion of Fire is really, really strong. I mean, if you summon a Heat Leo here, spinning the Fog Blade, well, you don't even need to spin the Fog Blade, but if you summon a Heat Leo here, you will be able to set one of Jake's monsters' attacks to 0, but then you only have 3 monsters, which means you can't climb into something like your Borreload Dragon. Otherwise, you would be very, very close to having game. He is still
Yeah, I mean,
sitting.
he has definitely a lot of options because, as you were saying, he's like due to the fact that Jake used the symbol at the beginning of the turn,
Yeah.
getting rid of his field, he still didn't use the Stalio, and he plays 2 copies of it.
Exactly,
So
exactly. And
he
he
does
returned
have,
one back with Jack Jaguar,
Yeah,
right?
so he does have access to the Stalio if he feels like it. Most of his monsters already have been used, so I'm not sure he has that many targets left in his deck that would actually allow him to continue his play, but regardless of this, he's going to be able to end on multiple disruptions. So let's come back to us real quick, just because we might as well just have a chat while they are
Can see our
figuring it
beautiful
out.
faces, you know.
Yes.
That's what the chat is here for.
Absolutely. So it seems like, as we were saying, there was a little bit of a miscommunication on whether the Foxy was having a response.
Sure.
It seems like the judges aired actually Jake saying okay. Joshua was fast, but if actually Jake was going for that, I'm pretty sure they are going to allow Joshua to destroy the field spell. It does matter, but I don't think at the end of the day it will actually change the outcome of the match.
It's a case of you need to be really careful, especially in these high-pressure situations, how you're interacting with your opponent. Because, you know, when you're talking to somebody, you can often just say, like, okay, or give a thumbs up in a passing, just kind of, yeah, that's something's happening. And then you realize a second later, you're like, that's not what I meant to say. So it's really important to be careful, because once you say okay, you have said okay, even if that was a mistake. Like, mistakes happen.
Absolutely,
just because
but
in hindsight you can see the correct line doesn't mean that you saw it at the time.
Yeah, and then, I mean, you're having a really high-stake match at the moment. Like,
yes, incredibly so. And
Oof.
these guys like have been battling against each other at multiple events. And
Indeed.
again, in the world's points race. So there's a lot of history.
yeah, I
behind
mean,
this
at the same
matchup.
time, you're going to have pressure. There is a huge crowd here watching live, plus all of you guys back at home. So
Yeah, we have.
it is always a big pressure. So it's tough here, and it's possible that Jake simply didn't see it. But we can go back to the match now because they agreed.
Yeah.
So they agreed the car could have not been chained. So Jake could not really chain. He says that the Foxy was okay. So a little bit of a misplay here from him, but there are worse things, honestly. Like, his play has been fine, and I don't think, as I was saying, that it will affect the match in the end.
Yeah, important to stay focused here. He's still very capable of taking this match. Like you said, Joshua is after going into the Mirage Stalio, lets him return the Rusty Bardiche to the extra deck, clearing one of the monsters away. The Galatea is now no longer protected, which means he will be able to clear it off the board if he wants to. Additionally, he has a Phantasme and an Infinite Impermanence for backup, so in a pretty decent spot. Sunlight Wolf going to attack Galatea. Joshua is going to banish Balinx in order to defend his Sunlight Wolf, because it really is one of the kind of core parts of the Salamangreat identity. Set an Infinite Impermanence, pass turn to user. Let's see what Jake can do with this draw. He is checking his opponent's graveyard, verifying what Salamangreat monsters are available there, seeing if he can get any idea what the set might be. He draws Orcust Crescendo for turn. That's not what you want to be seeing here, really.
Absolutely not. It was the card that he would have actually set with the Galatea, so it ended up being quite relevant here. But he still has quite a few plays on.
This is going to be a very big Dingirsu. Orcust Nightmare lets him send a Dark Machine from his deck to the graveyard, increasing the attack of Dingirsu here by 400, and also getting that powerful Orcust Harpower into the graveyard. He'll be able to summon Orcust Nightmare from his deck, and then he can summon another Galatea if he wants, getting his counter trap card live. He unfortunately does not have really much else going on for him here. He'll be able to return his Orchestrated Babel to his field if he wants.
Yeah, something that he could also go for is like discard the Crescendo for the Babel.
Yeah.
And then that way you actually have a few more extenders this turn, but it will mean that if you use the Crescendo, you're not only locked under Dark, it is an even stricter lock, I would say, which is Dark Machines, meaning that you cannot go into Rusty or like Bottle's Word. So we'll see the line that Jake decides to go for. Time was also kind of an issue. We did stop, of course, for the judge call, but there should be pretty much what you see on screen, so around 20 minutes, and this is still game 1. So I'm really wishing we're not gonna see just a game 1 and a very fast game 2-1 in time. Hopefully they'll be able to actually play it out, and let's see what happens here.
So he is going to set the counter trap card.
Oh, that's it. Do you think that all Jake actually had going on? He just passed. It's absolutely not what I would have expected from him. And now this is going very well for Joshua, absolutely. He is gonna make the bail links, and Jake just passed.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an awkward board. Sometimes just having enough attack points is sufficient. I'm also just after getting word that we have just had the finals of our first ever giant card speed duel event at the European Championships.
Nice.
So we will have interviews with the players from that after this match.
Yeah, speed duel, new Yu-Gi-Oh! Really. It's very refreshing. I had the chance to play it at a Comic-Con event in Italy, where I was basically doing what in the US is called Duel the Masters, and it was all speed duel. I had a lot of fun. So for all of people out there actually enjoying Duel Links and the old Yu-Gi-Oh!, it is quite a refreshing experience. Now we're gonna see Joshua actually being able to recover here. The Falco allows him to actually set back the rage, and it is looking like he is pretty much in control.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is the problem with the Orcust deck. You kind of need to find ways to get your engine going, being able to mess about with your banished cards and your graveyard cards. And at this point in the game, it's just a lot clunkier than the Salamangreat.
Absolutely. And it is true that Joshua could have played, Jake might have wanted to play around the Phantasmi in hand from Joshua. He knew about that, so that's maybe why he didn't go for the Galatea last turn, but
yeah,
it seems like this is going in Joshua's direction. He will be able to summon the Bottle Load, something that we haven't seen yet on stream for the Salamangreat players.
for sure. And Borreload was like back near the start of Link Monsters. Borreload was such a powerful, popular card, and it's really fallen off in its appearances as of late, but it's still just as strong when it comes down here. Being able to deny the Dengirsu is quite good. We see the Symbol Skeleton being added to hand. Jake draws a Phantasme. That is not what he needs right here. He's checking his graveyard, seeing if he can find something that will get him out of this situation, but it is not looking good here. Setting a skeleton, maybe he can pretend it's a jackalope. That might be able to scare Joshua.
He does have a few plays here, to be fair. He only has to play around what Joshua has, and he doesn't know. Like, the only card that he knows about is the Phantasme and the Rage. And at the moment, actually, Joshua has no way to trigger the Rage. So we'll see how this goes from, but us knowing what Joshua actually has, he has a set impermanence, a effect failure in hand, the possibility of drawing a Salamangreat with Phantasme. So definitely tough here.
Do you think there was an argument for taking the Dengirsu and just switching it to defense?
Possibly, but
because this way he is giving access to Galatea. Joshua, on the plus side, he does have the Phantasme. He gets a Synapse Mining and a Veiler, putting one of the Veilers back. He doesn't need to here. Galatea is good in that it will allow Jake to start recurring the Symbol Skeleton and such if he wants. He is opting not to do that. Just going to go straight into the Dengirsu, which will be able to clear the Borreload, except for the Veiler coming down.
And here, he doesn't have any other way to clear. Jake has seen enough, and he scoops it up. Joshua takes game 1 when there are only 15 minutes remaining. It is going to be tough to see a game 3 on time, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Now we're going to take a quick look at their side decks. Jake is most likely going to go first. And now, though, every time we see an Orcust deck on stream, once you get to the side deck, then, you know, 3 copies of Lancia are in pretty much any one deck. And that's going to be a lot tougher. And
yeah, so one of the innovations that we saw kind of coming out of NAWCQ was the use of instant fusion. Because even if your opponent resolves Lancia, if you have enough cards, you will be able to end on Galatea plus Winda from instant fusion. When you turn Galatea into Din Girsu, Din Girsu is able to protect the Winda in the end phase, which means you can at least prevent your opponent from going crazy during their turn, but definitely not where you want to be with the deck.
yeah, and to be honest here, I think Jake's decision to side Super Poly, but without the Chimera, is not going to pay off. Like, he only has the Starving Venom, which means he cannot side that card in. The only card he has for this matchup is pretty much DD Crow, which is cute because it prevents the Abyss Dweller, but right now he really needs to get things going on, and Joshua is maining a lot of Antrops, siding even more, so it is going to be tough for Jake here. I really think he is the underdog in this match at this point.
At this point in the match, for sure, we do know that you cannot have draws in the single elimination portion of the tournament, which we are in. So if Jake can wrap this game 2 up quickly, he will be able to get a game 3, and he will be able to try and take the match, but definitely a lot of pressure here.
Yeah.
This guy has been putting a lot of work in all season to get himself to the World Championship.
Okay, he opens up pretty good hand. I do see an Imperial Order, which lines up very well against Joshua hand, but is also very nice. So they both have very good hands. The Artifact Lancia is indeed drawn by Joshua alongside an Ash, which means that he has all of the tools he needs to actually stun here.
Yeah, so it's very good of him holding the Ash Blossom here, because really the core place to land it is on the Nightmare Mermaid. Jake is going to have difficulty continuing from there, because the only Orcust card he has access to here is the Symbol Skeleton in hand, which is not the one that you want for kind of beginning your Orcust plays when your opponent has negated.
Yeah, to be honest here, like, he doesn't even need to use Lancia, because as you're saying, he will be able to stop Jane main play.
Yeah.
And the only card that might save Jake is the Imperial Order itself. At the same time, Joshua does have the ability to play around that because of Foxy.
Yes.
So we will see how this is going on.
Yeah. Here comes the discard for Mermaid. Joshua says, Ash Blossom, do you have a Cold by the Grave? Jake does not. He is going to summon Skeleton, so he'll be able to go into Galatea and then into Din Girsu if he wants, but he does not have any banished Orcust monsters, which means Galatea will not get to search and is not doing much on this board.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you go into Din Girsu afterwards, it does give you protection for the Imperial Order, so it is not the worst opening of all here, having an Ash as well as a backup. Let's see if Joshua draws an answer. It is another Lancia. Definitely not what he wanted, and I think the Imperial Order is really going to carry here.
Yeah, I mean, we expect to see the Salamangreat Circle coming down early, which means Joshua will get to hold on to the Mind Control until later. It's unfortunate, though, because if he led with Mind Control, the Circle would have been able to follow it up and guarantee the search.
And now Joshua plays are very limited. He's going to go, as I was saying, for the Foxy. He can't use the effect because he needs to use the Grave effect. But with Din Girsu there, the line is actually very difficult. At the same time, though, what he can do is Ita. So he can Ita and get back the Kagari, and that way actually clear the Imperial Order with Leo. So he still has a pretty good line here.
So he tries to send a Sanctuary to summon the Foxy. Jake remembers his Din Girsu effect. He knows how to play this deck. He is forcing Joshua to have ability to climb into
Yes, here, as I was saying, it's pretty sure and obvious that he's going to go for the Ita, but the backup play, it isn't as good as it gets, honestly. He has to go for Ita here, clearing away the Imperial Order with an Leo, then Mind Control on the Din Girsu, and he gets to somewhat play. And honestly, if you're holding double Lancia there, you're pretty confident.
You're in a pretty good spot against Orcust when you're sitting with double Lancia against a blank board. Especially, it means the symbol skeleton in graveyard is not going to be doing anything at all, just sitting there doing whatever musical instruments do.
Yeah, at the same time, the Imperial Order might have actually been a negative thing for Jake going into the next turn. So let's see if it does pay off. But Joshua really couldn't do anything out of this. Yeah. I called out the play at the beginning. It was the only really decent play yet. And now he's gonna hope that Jake doesn't get something like an instant fusion or a way to play through the Lancia.
Yeah, and Joshua's after getting a lot of good damage in here, just over 4,000. Jake picks up the light stage, which means he will be able to search for Candina, but I believe he already used his Corbane earlier. So unless he's sighted in a Lilybell, which he does not have the option to, light stage is only representing a 1,800 attack point monster, which does not match into the Gemini Elf that is Nightmare Phoenix, 1,900 attack on the field. How do you beat through that?
You really gotta hope that this is gonna be a back and forth one where Joshua also doesn't get much going on. And he does draw the Pancratops, I believe, which is one of the useless cards in his hand, though he will be able to rely on the second Lancia, so not the end of the world.
He also has a 2-turn clock here with the Phoenix, which means Jake is going to have to start committing resources just to stay alive. Terraforming is coming down. Jake is not playing a Mystic Mine.
But I do not mind it, because if you get the Babel, he had the symbol engraved. So it means that even though he got Lancia, he still has access to the symbol. So it is going to be quite a close game. And
that is a nice pickup there. The Salamangreat Circle, it gets countered by the Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, but there is a Pancratops in hand. Pancratops could be a very important card here. Orchestrated Babel will be able to let Symbol Skeleton summon a Galatea pointing to the Nightmare Phoenix so that it can't be destroyed, or else summon it in Gearsey. But I think I like the
I do like Jake's position at the moment. He's getting back into this game now, and he's pretty much in control at this point. He managed to get through a couple Lancias, so...
That is a very odd positioning for the Galatea. It is not linked to, which means it can be destroyed by battle. He will get an Orcust Crescendo.
I think he used it during the end phase regardless, so it shouldn't make much of a difference. Probably even playing around the Pancratops there, because if he was summoning maybe the other way around, then he could have get punished. And he picks up even another Ash Blossom as a backup, so reinforcing again his position. And here, if you're Joshua, you really got to think about this. There are only 8 minutes remaining. And let's remember that in Top Cut, the time rules are slightly different. If time is called and there is still a game free to be played, they're actually going to roll a dice to decide who goes first. And there will be a 4 turns match, which is something that I don't think Joshua wants to happen. So...
Yeah, I mean, if you can just set up going first in game 3, you'll be in a pretty strong position with the Salamangreat deck.
Yeah, and at the same time, to be honest, Joshua might want that. Like, there is a world in which Joshua doesn't want game 3 to be called on time, because maybe he does risk it, because if you play a 4 turns game, I think Joshua can win even affording to lose the die rolls. It is only slightly weird because of the side decks, but honestly, like the Lancia and your end shops are good regardless if you go first and second. So maybe Joshua does not mind the time rule being used for a 3rd game. So
do you want to check to make sure he doesn't have a Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood, because we did see that come in yesterday.
Yes, they both do not play the card. Unfortunately, we saw Samir having a very fun time on stream. If you guys missed it, go check out that match.
Round 7 yesterday?
I believe so. It was such a fun time. I mean, I guess for Samir and us, not so much for his opponent, but his opponent didn't make top 32 today. So he was the confident Thunder Dragon players that was very bold in saying Salamangreat is a buy.
Yes.
Samir taught him a lesson, I'd say, and maybe
I think they played against each other in top 64.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you sure?
So
I'm very sure they didn't. I don't know. They were close to each other, but Joshua now...
We'll verify this for next round.
Yes, for sure. Joshua picks up his card. It is going to be 1-1, so he doesn't think that it is good to have a game free in time. So now it is actually going to be a close one, because both of these decks require some time to actually get things going on. And if our timer is correct, there was a judge call, so extra time was given, but we will surely clarify that with our judges real quick. So
yeah, there is going to be at most 3 to 4 minutes in this upcoming game, which is not a lot of time to decide it, which means we are probably going to see the game ending in time. And both players will be playing very carefully to make sure to preserve their life points the best that they can. Something like a Fantastical Dragon Phantasme could easily decide this game.
Do you think if you are Jake, you expect Joshua to go second? Because like once time is very close, we see a lot of people actually doing that. It is something that makes a lot of sense, because honestly, a lot of decks this format makes very huge boards, a lot of negations, but then all you need might be a Pancratops or a Phantasme to attack one over them. You're still losing the game, but maybe you win in time. So
yeah, perhaps you could find value because you have 3 Pancratops, you have 3 Phantasme, and you also have 3 Artifact Lancia, all of which are very impactful and can end the match in time. However, I still would be inclined to go first as Joshua here, because getting to setup is so valuable.
Joshua unfortunately picks up the Sanctuary, and just as a clarification, our timer is correct indeed.
Yes.
They got the extra time, but that was already accounted for, so this is the timer we are having. So
yeah, I mean, they were very quick in their siding. They have 4.5 minutes to play a full game. They should be fine.
Let's take a look at the hands. I see a lot of hand shops for Joshua, but I do not think he has any play at all.
Yeah.
Is he?
Set
Wow.
buffer low, say go. He is going to be able to prevent Jake from establishing any board here, though, because he does have Ash Blossom Phantasme and the Artifact Lancia.
Very rough opening for Joshua. Luckily for him, as you were saying, he does have the Phantasme, which means that he can shuffle back the Sanctuary, get potentially a Cyber's monster, and that way he will be able to still trigger the buffer low.
For sure. And this is definitely a hand where he would have liked to have gone second.
And if you're Jake, what do you do with this Call by the Grave?
I think you have to call by the grave the Ash Blossom based on this hand and based on the fact that the time is ticking down swiftly. He is trying to earn his spot at the World Championships, having missed out on Friday. This is basically what he's been working to.
But at the same time, don't you think that Jace played this kind of incorrectly, I want to say, because if he would have gone for the Carbane instead, right, then he could just normal summon the Art Porter, hold the Call by the Grave for a possible Lancia, and there was no way he would have lost this game. Now he's risking it a lot, actually.
He is in a really tough spot. Even if he gets the Mermaid down, he'll be able to discard perhaps a Heart Power.
Yeah, but the Art Porter is not going to be relevant because of Lancia.
It can't activate because of Lancia.
So I think Jake was really fast. He probably got super excited because, I mean, you can't really blame him. Your opponent in top 32 is Joshua Schmidt, and he starts with a set monster and pass.
Yeah.
But still, he should have really thought about this a lot more, because he could have played around both Ash and Lancia. Now he can get punished.
And he is just on the Carbane beatdown. He is just going to attack Carbane, Candina, get some damage in.
This is a nice play, though, from Jake. You gotta give it to him. He recognizes that the set could be a Buffalo and the Cardinal Phantasme, so he plays around the possibility, and he's gonna combo off him Memphis 2 instead.
The problem is the Phantasme still comes down here, puts a lot of damage onto the board, is allowing Joshua to get a Signet mining. He doesn't even have to think. He's just like,
there is no thinking here, and I think Joshua might actually be able to steal this game. It is going to be very, very close. The thing is here, the Veiler can come down and completely shut Jake, because the Lancia is then going to be used. Wow, what a match. He has the Phantasme to negate the Fog Blade, and I think there is not enough time to continue after that.
Yeah, but Joshua is after taking damage here. He does need Jake to finish his turn.
I think Jake has to be really fast here, because there is not much he can do, and...
Yeah. 1 minute and a half remaining. Joshua goes Signet mining. I'm going to get Salamangreat Gazelle. It is going to be able to summon itself.
It is going to be a blowout, but at the same time now Joshua doesn't have a card in his hand, which means that the Fog Blade is actually useful here.
Fog Blade targeting Gazelle. This means Joshua can go to battle phase. He only has a minute remaining. He needs to be very careful. I'd almost be inclined to declare an attack.
He has enough time here. He does have enough time. He's going to be able to use the Foxy. This is more than enough. I'm pretty sure Joshua is going to win this game. All he needs is just attack with all these monsters, then make like Silent Wolf in Memphis 2. He does have access to a couple of plays. He can even go for the Ita if he wants to. And this is going to be very close, but...
Incredibly high pressure situation. Of course, the Nightmare Mermaid only had 0 attack. It wasn't able to summon the Orcust Nightmare because of the Veiler, and then the Lancia as well were able to shut down Jake's plays entirely. And it must be so frustrating, because if he had just stuck with the Trickstars, he would have been in such a strong position to try and take this match, because Joshua's hand was not very playable.
Jake has enough time to actually go into Dingirsu though. Oh my god, this is gonna be so close. He can just go and summon Dingirsu and take the game. This is absurd. He has 2 seconds. Oh, what is happening? Oh my god. This is gonna be so close. What is going on here? It is gonna be on our judges' end. I think there might have been enough plays, but Joshua can actually change the bar load. It doesn't change the game state, so maybe it is over. We can probably just go back to us in the meantime, and we will let you know what our judges decide.
I mean,
wow,
top 32.
Like, my heart is beating. Like, someone call a doctor. I'm like literally sweating. We are still waiting on our judge to actually confirm what's going on. But this is going to be quite a close decision, honestly.
Yeah, it's a more high-octane match than anything we saw on Friday even. Like, it's so clutch.
I'm literally having my heart like going super fast. It was such an incredible match. I am super confused of what's going on. Like, the first 2 games, honestly, it was pretty much what we have seen the entire weekend.
Yeah, obviously.
Back and forth. Game 1, very long. Honestly, I thought it was going to be over a lot sooner with the Dweller and the Rage. But in Game 2, Jake was actually able to fight through 2 Lancia with a very bad opening hand. And it was quite a showing of why these guys are among the best top 8 players in Europe. But
For
Game
sure.
3, the madness.
I mean, the time pressure is so intense here, and you have to be so careful. Like, it's one of the reasons why you need to decide if you are going to concede games early, because we see here that when you are not careful with time, you end up in these awkward positions where players are unsure what is going to happen. Again, this is make or break for these guys. They both want to be European champion. It
is absolutely there. Probably for Jake, I want to say it is one of the most important matches of his entire Yu-Gi-Oh career. He really didn't get close to going to the World Championship in the past. He did win like a UK national, topped countless YCSs, but like, think about this. Joshua is already locked in for the 4th World Championship appearance in a row. No, not in a row, but like 3 in a row, which is still quite impressive. And for him, this is just as another match. But of course, he wants to try and become European champion. But wow, this is actually incredible, honestly.
It is not what we would have expected from this matchup, despite the fact, like, these guys are super skillful players. But for it to come down to the wire is unbelievable. While we wait for this result, we're briefly going to discuss. So again, Speed Duel has just finished up the first, effectively a major European event.
Yeah, honestly, like here we can see we probably had quite a showing in Game 3 of what speed dueling could look like if it was Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, I don't think I've seen that.
I think that was turbo dueling.
Turbo, maybe even. Yeah, we can actually send some ideas over to the Konami if they want to make some turbo dueling here. But yeah, Speed Duel is actually a new way of playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
It was introduced kind of recently. It is pretty much the, I want to say, card game version of Duel Links.
Yeah, exactly. And it has that more kind of casual feel to it, which is really nice. I love being able to just pick up the pre-constructed decks and play with friends who've not played Yu-Gi-Oh! In ages, or who are fans of the anime but don't have time to learn these like hyper-complex decks. Like, there is beauty to the complexity of the competitive format, but not everybody wants that, and I think Speed Duel really finds a nice balance there.
It is. It is also something that people that are not as familiar with some of the new cards and then just recently being back into the game or introduced at all to Yu-Gi-Oh! Can come up, because at the moment new cards are getting released as time goes by, but for now it is pretty much old style Yu-Gi-Oh! Which everyone loves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from the tournament that we had 32 players, 5 rounds. I did not get to catch the winners yet, but the last round that I was there, Table 1 had Gravekeeper Mirror Match going on. One of the most popular decks. I feel like every time a set comes out, people are like, is there new Gravekeeper support? And in Duel Links there is. They have access to a skill card, which lets you start the game with a card named Necro Valley in play.
Yeah, it is one of the main differences from I would say the regular Yu-Gi-Oh! For people that are not familiar with Duel Links, there are a few differences. There are only 3 zones instead of 5, no main phase 2, so it is pretty much a simplified version, but it is definitely not less fun. Like, as I was saying, I was invited to one of the main Comic-Cons in Italy to just play speed duels against random people, and I had a lot of fun. Like, it was actually really cool to play these, I would want to say, like, at best 5 minutes games.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is,
they're kind of bite-sized.
Yeah,
you know.
I think it's very refreshing because everything is pretty much out. And it makes it for some very good duels, I want to say.
Yeah, 100%. Which is your favorite of the 6 starter decks for Speed Duel?
I mean, I've been playing, when I was playing at the Comic-Con, I built a couple decks, one of them being Madzenes, and I tried also the Blue Eyes. I think there are a lot of different options. The really cool thing is that you can actually change the skill card and create your own synergies. As we were saying, there is one that allows you the tribal synergy. It's very strong. It allows you to mix Amazonas and RPs, and it is probably more alluring for someone like me coming from competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, drawing cards is nice, you know?
Well, you mentioned competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Are you a fan of Twin Twisters?
Twin Twisters, you mean, in general? Or
just in general.
Dies?
Like, if you can have Twin Twisters,
I am.
How about a Twin Twisters with no cost to discard?
It is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I do know what you are talking about. It involves some die rolling, but actually, due to the skill, it doesn't.
So, Dice Spoon is a card in Speed Duel at the moment, and it is being played in conjunction with the new skill, It's My Lucky Day, which lets you pay 1,000 life points to choose the result of one die roll on the resolution of the card, which means you can activate Dice Spoon and say, do you have a response? If not, on resolution, pay 1,000 for my once per duel skill. I rolled a 6.
Yes.
And then destroy your 2 back row and attack for game with my Blue Eyes White Dragons, which is, you know, what you want to be doing in Speed Duel. So, pretty cool. We are still waiting for clarification on the result of this match.
But we're also getting new results from our other top 32 matches.
Exactly.
We will be able to show you guys later on how the breakdown, both for countries and decks, is gonna, I think, shape up.
Yeah, for sure. How do you feel about the field at this point? So we came into the event and we really saw there was a lot of Salamangreat. Do you think that it has progressed the way you were expecting? I'm talking to a lot of people and they said, oh, I think Thunder Dragon is going to win the event. But we see great players here who have chosen actively not to play that deck. They had the cards. They have Chaos Emperor, King of Armageddon. You know, they're not missing any of the pieces.
Yeah, first of all, I would say that it is very impressive that both of these guys, so Jake and Joshua, won a copy of the prize card yesterday. And since they made top 32, they actually won a second one. With Joshua, I believe winning actually 3 copies, because if you go to the World Championship through the playoff, you get even an additional. Yeah. So it is ridiculous that he has actually a complete set. You know, yeah, just a play set of Chaos Armageddon through the course of 3 days. I think that's pretty good.
It's okay.
It's okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's such
overall,
an
outside
amazing
of
card.
that, yeah, you asked me about like my favorite. I'm not sure, but I was very impressed by the Lunalight Orcust player last turn. So I really hope that he is still in contention, and if possible, we'll try to get him for a future match as the tournament progresses.
Yeah.
I think it is very cool that you can just adapt your own strategies and be successful with it this tournament.
Yeah,
So,
and Lunalight obviously is a deck which has kind of gone in and out of the radar. It won YCS Chicago, being piloted by Raphael Nevin, who has qualified for Europe to play at the World Championship from the playoff on Friday. And, you know, it is a deck that I've been hearing a lot of good things about in the OCG, where they have a few extra link monsters that really synergize with it. So it could be a deck that if you are looking for something to play in the format, that you should definitely check out, I think.
absolutely, and I don't know, I just enjoy, I've been following, of course, the game for more than 10 years at this point, I believe, and I enjoyed the changes. So it is quite a cool a moment for Yu-Gi-Oh, I would say, because changes are always good, but people do need some time to adapt. And I think we are in a moment in which most of them did adapt.
Yeah, we're in a great kind of position where everything is kind of slowly getting more support. We see things like El Shaddai Construct, which is now at 1, a very popular card, and you can build a deck around it. You can still play True Draco, for example, which was a tier 1 deck, and in the past formats, I think often we would have seen True Draco just obliterated by a list, but in fact we see it as a deck which was being played here, and I've talked to quite a few people that have lost matches to it. So it's great to see that we have the new decks like Orcust and Salamangreat, which are performing great, but we also see a lot of old decks which are still very playable, and it gives a lot of chance for expression to players and a lot more fun at local level events as well, because, you know, you can stroll up to locals and I can say, hey, today I'm going to play Burning Abyss.
So, at the moment, sorry to interrupt you, but we actually do have our head judge on the table. It seems like they are finalizing the decision, and it seems that Jake could be allowed to enter his battle phase. The thing is that there was still, we went back and watched the actual future match. Yeah. Of course, we have the lack of it being on stream. You can check how much time was left, and there were about 2 seconds left when he summoned it. And in these kind of scenarios, even though Joshua is able to use the Borrowload effect just to, as a chain link, let's say, sure, it doesn't really advance the game state, and that means that it would just really be pointless to do that. And that's why I think our head judge is actually gonna allow Jake to enter the battle phase, which would mean that he is gonna win the match. So
for sure,
we are, yeah.
It's always really tough in these sort of situations because it is so tight and it all happens in such a small period of time. Again, whichever player qualifies from this game, they are very worthy of it, and they definitely will be expected to go very far after this point.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, as we were saying, like, these kind of situations are very close. We saw instances of this even at the NA WCQ. It is part of the game, but honestly, I think it is fair for both players. As I was saying, luckily, this was on stream. We got to see what happened. We got to see the timers. Jake had a couple seconds left. The Borrowload effect did nothing, so Jake is declared the winner of this match. He will advance to the top 16. Joshua is kicked out, but he will still go to the World Championship.
Exactly.
Crowd is gonna applaud, so thank you guys again for watching. We are still gonna wait a little bit because we still wanna try and have a couple words with Jake. He was very close to go to the World Championship a couple days ago.
Yes, exactly, and he is really trying to do it the hard way and just qualify through this massive event, the largest ever European Championship. There could not be an easier or a more difficult tournament to play through in order to try to qualify, despite the fact that our 8-man tournament was full of the best players in Europe. The amount of stamina needed to play an event this long is massive. But Jake is going to try his best to get there.
But yeah, I mean, in the end, it was a very exciting match. I hope everyone watched it because I was saying my heart was really raising in the end there.
Yeah.
Again, congratulations to Jake. Congratulations even to Joshua. As I was saying, he won free prize cards in a weekend. You can't really complain about that. Guys, thanks again for watching. We're still going to have more actions later on today.
We will be back very, very shortly with the top 4 speed duel decks from this event.
See you.